everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Mercury Retrograde from 27th of September to 18th of October between 10 degree to 25 degree of Libra. Mercury is the planet of communication, thinking. It is our senses. It is one of our senses, key senses, which helps us connect with other people as well as travel from one place to another. It is direct 82% of the year. It goes retrograde 3 times a year for 22 days. So for those 22 days, which is a rare moment in a year because this planet is moving direct 82% of the time, in those rare moments, it is the time to somehow detox some of the thought processes and ideas that we have accumulated about a certain part of our life over the course of last couple of months, especially the last 3 months. Mercury goes retrograde in a specific element once in 6 years. So every 6 years, one of the elements of our life, they are reviewed for 1.5 years. We are in the review process of air element of our life right now. Air element of our life emphasizes communication and relationships and connections with another. And we can see very well, we are trying to find a new way of connecting with other people. This is not an emotional cycle. We are not looking at emotionally how we connect with people, though that can come up purely because Venus is right now in Scorpio. So the depth in relationships is being emphasized. But it's not the emotional element of the partnerships that are being looked at. We are looking at balance in partnerships, whether the relationships are balanced on both sides. Is the emotional and the rational side balanced? Are we intellectually compatible with the people we are connecting with? Or have we outlived the ideologies, the thought process, the conversations, the air element that exists in our partnerships and relationships? If there is a lack in balance in relationship, the typical Libra statement, and I live with 3 Libras in my house and we are under lockdown for the entire period of the retrograde period, the it's not fair element is emphasized. In a relationship, the it's not fair element is dominant. You would find that getting revisited and reviewed and being discussed and intellectually discussed on why this is not happening. You'll also find that the aesthetics in creativity, aesthetics in relationships, aesthetics in our own self, because it's a Venusian ruled sign. The aesthetics and the way things are said are as important as what we are saying. So the aesthetics of the conversations and the relationships and your own self, because this is about you as well, thinking about yourself, that also goes through a review process. This is not a Venus retrograde, so no, we are not like going to feel physically challenged in terms of how we look or having doubts about our own value. But yeah, aesthetics of a relationship. Are we presenting the best self when we go out and meet other people? That will get emphasized. The intellectual exchange with your other halves. And they don't have to be romantic relationships. The people in your life, the friends, the associations, the people who are on a one-on-one basis, what are the subjects that you discuss with them? This is whether I'm feeding my mind in the right way or not when I meet people. That will come into consideration. And there's usually an element of dissatisfaction that comes in when Venus goes retrograde. So we are sort of in a process where we look for new content. We look for new things to feed our mind. We look for new topics to feed our relationship, to keep them exciting, to keep them mentally engaging more. And it's where the patterns in the relationship which block the future growth, that comes into focus as well. That this relationship has reached its maturity in some ways and we cannot connect any further. Is there anything else we can do? So you'll find a complete churning of the content, the intellectual content in your relationships. And this would very much impact if you are in a relationship with your clients, like you need to counsel your clients or you're on a one-on-one basis interaction with clients, which many of us would be in this situation. How do we connect with them? What kind of information exchange is happening? That will come into focus. And there is a social dissatisfaction that we are not excited enough, not getting enough oomph out of our social element. You'll find that already the old problems that exist in friendships, in connections, in associations, in our way of aesthetics when it comes to creativity, intellectual exchange in relationships, moral of relationships, lack of balance in relationships, misleading information and communication in relationship, lack of communication in relationship, promises in relationships not kept. Those will become more prominent in these 22 days leading to 18th of October. And it's not that the whole process goes like that. It's not a backward journey. It's a very outdated view that the entire period of Mercury retrograde we are down in dumps. That's not how it works. It's life. This is life. It's part of our life. So you have to take it as a growth period. So we'll discuss the positives of it beyond, communication gets challenged, emails can be misleading. We need to be very careful about our documentation, especially communication with clients, promises not being kept, or time management, devices being damaged in some ways, being flexible when it comes to your appointments. If you're signing any contracts and documents, leave flexibility for errors. If you're planning to buy any devices or planning to travel, either be flexible with the contracts of those devices, check them twice, or delay the purchase of the devices if possible after the Mercury retrograde. If you have to travel, just be careful that, be flexible on the travel, that things may not go as you want. If you're signing any contracts, especially commitments which are long-term right now, just be careful that there might be elements that we don't see. The period of Mercury retrograde is not so there should be communication issues. That's not the objective of it. That is, of course, the way it pans out. But the objective is to slow us down, to slow this churning that goes around in our mind. When Mercury is moving forward, it is moving ahead of Sun. And it has been moving ahead of Sun, making contacts, making connections with people, originating ideas, thinking about what to do next. Now is the time to 18th of October to assimilate some of that. And the whole period is not going to be like that. We have a split, and I'll go through the phases today on how does the phase of Mercury retrograde turn out and where do we turn to the other side from retrospection to moving forward. So the first half of the cycle till about 8th of October, you would find that we'll be forced to slow down a little bit. The more you'll try to push forward, something or the other will happen, which pulls us back in some way. We are intellectual, interacting, social beings, and we want to be out and about and meet people. But because the retrospection and reconsideration cannot be done when you are going, it wants you to slow down and stop for a moment. So force happens, either things will break. So, you're trying to rush to a meeting and the appointment is wrong, and it's like a message, slow down. The device does not work that you need to use for communication. There is a need for awareness in the current moment that these breakages in communication brings to us. There is non-verbal, non-linear communication coming our way, which in our forward movement we will not perceive. So this is the time it's called the epimethian phase of retrospect, when the forward movement has to pause for reflection. We have to pause for these 11 days leading to 8th of October to notice certain things that we have missed out. And it's not just that we missed them out in September. As I said, this is a long-term cycle. Every 6 years, there is a detox of our relationships. There is a detox. There's a complete change and churning of our, especially the mindset. How do we think about people in our life? The people who form core part of our life. These are not people who don't influence you. These are the people who influence you emotionally, intellectually. And you have to give an objective thought process to whether you're connecting with them in the right way and you're acknowledging their space, their place, and the difference they make in your life or not. So this 11 days of review is the going back and looking at our own motivation of connection with people. Why do I connect with them? What is my intellectual gain out of doing what I'm doing? Whether it is creatively you're doing something, there's a project that you're doing for your clients or for others or with others, or doing for counseling others or helping others, or with your partner you are doing something. You're like, why am I doing this, and why am I connecting with people? What is the motivation behind it, and what is the information content behind it? What is my mind gaining out of it? It can be a little bit disorienting, this phase till 8th of October. It is a phase when we are looking back. So it's like, as I said, this is a planet which is 82% of the time moving forward. So when it pauses, it's like a jerk, right? So inertia. You get that inertia in the first 8 days. What happened? Why are the things not moving? Why am I being forced to pause? Why are things? There's a frustration that comes in this time. It's a time of dramatic confrontation of unresolved issues, which we did not see when things were moving forward, when Mercury was running ahead of Sun. It's the time to bring those lessons that we were supposed to learn, which we missed in that cycle, home for reconsideration. So be patient with that time, and when things are bringing attention to it, just give yourself the bandwidth to think, the bandwidth to evaluate, because this is the time when the symbolism is highlighted in this period. This 11-day period is when our intuition is very strong and the symbolism is very high at this time, and we are required to look at those symbols that we normally don't want to look at because we want to just get things done. This is a planet of business, so in business you want to get things going, and you suddenly find that a contract or a connection or a client engagement you made, there is something missing in it. So the symbolism, images, signals, intuition, they will grow, and we lose the stiff stand on things because of an information that is shown to us, because we disengage. This is the period till 8th of October when we have to disengage from something old. And the retrospection that happens, it's such a very common mistake that we make in these 11 days, the first 11 days of Mercury retrograde, because past starts coming back. Sometimes even before Mercury goes retrograde, so before 27th of September also, past starts coming back, and we assume that past is coming back because we are to maybe take them back, those connections back, go back to those contracts, go back to those connections, go back to the bondage we had with something or someone or a company or a contract or a person, and we are meant to go back, and there was something wrong with what we were trying to do in the last 3 months. No, that's not why the retrograde period is. Retrograde period from 27th of September to 8th of October is to completely cut the cord from the old way of handling a situation to show you a new way. And the person or the situation or the job comes back in our life because it shows you how far you have come from that situation. In the 3 months especially, and for some of us, we will receive these people, associations, connections, contracts, situations from way back in 2014 and 2015. September of 2014, October of 2014, and then September and October of 2015 was the period when we had Mercury last in this position going back and forth. So for some of us, you'll find that the things that are coming back, even the situations and the people that are coming back, are reminiscence of that time. And it's not so we relive them or we take them back or we go back to those patterns. It's to show the gap of growth. And the gap is shown to show you that you cannot go back anymore. It is to show that we have to move forward. We have to move forward even if those people are back in your life for other reasons. The connection is completely evolved. It is completely changed. And that is the first 11 days of Mercury retrograde. Within that 11 days, many of us are Pluto in Libra generation. Pluto in Libra generation is Gen X, essentially. So 1971 to 1984 is Pluto in Libra generation. So we have natally Pluto in Libra, and Mercury is going up and down, making that contact with Pluto. There is a forced evolution that has happened in the life of people who have already gone through Pluto squares, which is a midlife, one of the midlife transits, astrological transits, which happen, which is Pluto square Pluto. So if any of you are part of the Gen X, most of you have already gone through a Pluto square Pluto transit, which is a midlife transit for 1971 to 1984 born. You'll find that has forced us to evolve how we manage relationships. How there's a new model of relationship which has already psychologically appeared, because psychologically Pluto square Pluto changes us. It forces us to evolve in relationships through events. And it can happen from age 36 to 40, 45, 46. So many of you, depending on the year you were born, 1971 to 1984, you kind of have gone through the Pluto square Pluto. So now with this Mercury retrograde making a connection with your natal Pluto, you'll find that you find a physical expression of that psychological change that has happened. You will feel this very strongly, because you will change the way, the language we speak in relationships, the content of your client conversations, the content of your conversations with other people, the lack of balance that was there before you were forced to evolve. You'll find that will come very vividly out with this transit. Speaking of the aspects that we are going to go through, because they as I said, the first 11 days, it is going to be a time of dramatic confrontation of unresolved issues. It is also happening because we have Chiron, which is asteroid. We'll find that Chiron is making a opposition to Mars, and it has done opposition with Mercury as well. Chiron opposition is all about hurt. So the initiative that we'll take to change the way we connect with others, it is rooted in a wound. Chiron opposition, especially to Mars on 1st of October, and many of you might have this natally, Mars opposition to Chiron. It shows us why we don't initiate, especially relationships. What suppresses our initiative in relationships? What suppresses our in putting our foot down in relationships as well? What suppresses our drive, sometimes sexual even, especially sexual drive in relationships? What makes our ability to stand our ground when it comes to other low? And normally the root of Mars opposition to Chiron is on a very early hurt which has happened. And this is a wound of initiative, which can be a physical wound. It sometimes emphasizes a physical abuse which has happened early in life for many of us. So if it is especially a natal position for you, you'll find that come up. But for all of us, you'll find that we are asked to face what is blocking your ability to be direct in relationships. Because this is a marker. Mars opposition to Chiron is the marker. We need to heal our ability to go like this for our goals, like go head on. Why are we not meeting a challenge of our life to connect with others head on? What blocks us? What is the issue? And with this kind of opposition, there is an indication that there is a pendulum which is happening, which is that we go from being too permissive to being too aggressive in relationships and partnership. And that pendulum is showing an imbalance, and planets in Libra, they need to be balanced. So when you see that during Mercury retrograde, the main objective of Mercury retrograde in Libra is, can we balance the rational and the emotional side of our life? And the rational and the emotional side of our life, if we are behaving or acting out of a place of deep-rooted hurt, it is very difficult to happen, because everything that comes in front of us, everything that happens in our life, it triggers a wound that is beyond the current moment. And because of that, the reaction are much more exaggerated and accumulated in nature. So the inability to be direct, the stating clearly what you want. Mars is what we desire, how to go after, our ability to go after what we desire. So it's the planet of desire. It is the planet of passion. So what blocks our ability to go after our passions and desire? What is blocking us? It's usually a lack of confidence in our own identity, our own uniqueness. That is a key, because Chiron is in Aries right now. Aries is all about uniqueness. So when we are not sure about the value of our unique abilities, that's when that is suppressed. And that can happen through early upbringing. As I said, especially if you have this in your natal chart, it can happen through a physical wound, or it could happen through an emotional wound early in life. And normally the wound in case of Chiron is beyond our control. We had Churchill with this aspect in his natal chart, and Churchill basically dislocated his shoulder at the age of 21, and he just could not raise his arm in the right way after that, and it had nothing to do with him. The boat just moved slightly away because of the current of the water in that moment, and he was crippled for life. And it's normally Chiron wounds is something we don't want others to see. They are very well shielded, they're very well guarded, because they are at an emotional level we don't want. But nothing heals them. Whatever you do, it does not heal them. The only thing that heals them is to help other people deal with the same crippling, with the same issue, with the same emotional wounding. So in case of Mars Chiron oppositions, the way to heal is sometimes to help other people. So Churchill was not able to raise his arm like that, but up because of his shoulder hurt, but he could make a V for the army, V for victory, which is his famous shot for the war, to encourage the other soldiers who could fight. He could not do anything physically that aggressive anymore after that accident at 21, but he could encourage others to do that. So with Chiron Mars opposition, generally we can heal ourselves by helping others. That is a healthy expression of this, which is to help others get their ambition, express their sexual desires and their other desires, and to motivate them essentially. But the root cause of this, it causes us to have an unhealthy expression of anger, drive, resentment and frustration. And you'll see some of that come up on 1st of October when we'll see this transit. Right now, Chiron is retrograde, so you cannot really mentor your way out of it by mentoring others who struggle with anger, initiation, and sexual expression, which would be a way to handle this opposition. When Chiron is retrograde, we need to heal ourselves. And the healing can only happen with this opposition by going after what you desire. No matter what, no matter who it pisses off, your buried anger, resentment, it would come out in unexpected forms because it will be triggered by something very mundane. And it is an opportunity for us to stand for ourselves using the right measure of force, using the right balance of force, by getting in touch with our masculine side, no matter what your sexual tendencies are, and taking action. And resolving issue with masculine side of us can only come with initiative. You'll have to balance your self-assertion with cooperation, and we'll be given a trigger around 1st of October when we'll have to show it. And it might already be happening for you because Chiron made an opposition with Mercury already around 8th or 9th of September. So we might have already been triggered in some ways emotionally, and now you just get another trigger of that around the 1st and the 3rd of October. On 1st of October, especially with Mars, there could be a physical trigger. And we have to be a little bit careful because Mars-Chiron opposition, Chiron is a significator of hurt. So physically, and Mars can hurt. Suddenly a hurt can happen, especially if you have planets around 10 degree, 11 degree of Libra. You need to be careful about physically getting hurt at that time. Our energy levels would be high, or we would be bursting from inside to do something, but the fear of hurting us, or afraid of confrontation, or stating clearly what we want, or our confusion of self-assertion with aggression, because we are not able to balance these two elements which we are required to balance, self-assertion versus aggression, it can cripple us from acting. It can cripple us from asking and going after what we want. It is the analysis paralysis that Libra goes through on an ongoing basis, which is keeping on trying to get it right so others don't get offended, fear of hurting others, and because of which the action is delayed or held back, hurting themselves. And you'll find that is something we have to overcome. This is a transit of growth. Every retrograde is an opportunity to grow. And after 6 years, we get that opportunity to change our reaction when it comes to partnerships. Our inability to stand for ourselves, our inability to resolve an issue head on when it comes to others, our ability to overdoing, creating an imbalance without understanding the reason behind why are we doing this? Why am I doing it to avoid offending others? Am I doing it to avoid, what others want me to do? So that's why I'm doing. What is the psychology behind your action? And are you just doing it to overcome a confrontation? So you don't have to, I just don't want to discuss this. I don't want to explain myself. Those kind of things would come up. And that is a key aspect in my view, because the rest of the aspects, they are internal to us. This will be external to us. And I do feel a little bit inflammation, fever, some sort of if we don't have a healthy expression or physical expression of it, it can cause headache, it can cause impaired drive, it can cause inability in some physical inability in some cases, physical ailment in some cases, which can come out. So we need to be physically very careful, especially Mars will be in Libra and it will be opposed by Chiron in Aries. And this is happening at 10 degree. Mars in Libra can cause inflammation related to sexual organs of our body. So especially the outer sexual organs of our body that we need to be careful about. This is not medical advice. I'm telling you astrologically what can happen. So UTI is very common with this kind of aspect. It's kidney or inflammation within the body. Adrenal fatigue is very common with this kind of aspect, which we need to be careful about. Running yourself to ground to please others causes those things normally. Positive aspects. There are positive aspects. This is a lucky retrograde in some ways, if I can call it so. Lucky creatively, because it's happening at a degree which is around 24, 25 degree of Libra, which is aspecting a brilliant star called Spica. When we have Spica activated, not by 1, not by 2, by 3 planets, which is what is going to happen in October. We will have Sun aspecting it. We'll have Mercury aspecting it. Mercury will aspect it 3 times. It has already done so on 20th of September. It will do once more on 30th of October and another time on 1st of November. These 3 dates, 20th of September, 3rd of October, 1st of November, around those days, 1 or 2 days before and after, they're brilliant for creation. They're brilliant for future creation. And not just creation in isolation, creation with somebody. This is externalizing your ideas and discussing it and, planning for the future intellectually with people who are also as fed up as you of old ideas and they want something revolutionary to happen in their life, and you could do that together with them. This is happening at 23, 24, 25, around those degrees of air signs, especially for Libra, Aquarius, Gemini. You're looking at brilliant ideas coming through, thought processes which can be used in future growth, intellectual and mental effort. It opens up ideas or thought processes which are very unique in nature. Spica gives honor and fame to people who think differently, like Newton. So it gives honor to people, fame to people who are writers, painters, musicians, scientists, who are not afraid to use their knowledge and insights to show to other people what is possible beyond what they see. That's why there are 2 sides normally we see successful with them, creatives and scientists. Because you have to think differently and think ahead. It doesn't mean those are the only professions who can do that, but commonly that's the one. So it's not limited to a field, it's just pure brilliance of mind, which is different and unique in nature, and a talent, a skill, an ability which is out of ordinary, essentially, which is shown to us. And why are we having it 3 times? To have intellectual confidence in what you're thinking about. Of course, there might be ways to grow it further, but the most important thing, in my view, this retrograde, apart from getting you the right people to do it together with, is your own intellectual conviction in your idea, in your own mind, having intellectual confidence. I literally could just call this reading intellectual confidence, because that's what we're trying to create till 18th of October. Because it's not, in my view, it's not the idea that will get completely different, changed during this time. If you've had or seeded or thought of an idea around 20th of September, or you've done something socially around 20th of September, formed a partnership, a contract, a relationship around 20th of September, it's not that that's going to change conceptually, but how you think about it, your conviction in it is supposed to change. And that usually can happen through a process of you getting intently obsessive about it, or you having an obsessive discussion about it, again in the first 3 days of the month. First 3 days of the month are very critical. They are the ones that are going to shape this cycle, 1st to 3rd of October. You're looking at that time, although the aspect is Jupiter trine is exact on 3rd October, but we also have a Pluto square on 1st of October. And both of these aspects, because Mercury is standing still since end of September to early part of October, it will extend for close to 7 days. So it's not one day, it's not just 1st of October, 3rd of October. It's like end of September to early part of October, first week of October, that you'll find that you are giving form to this inner brilliance that would otherwise just be a airy thought, a fluffy thought, that you had a good conversation with a friend, or a one-time thing you did where you achieved a very positive result in terms of testing ground with your clients or with the external people. It just a high-level thinking, oh, great idea, and then we go home and it's done. No, this is not that. Pluto will make sure that you will use Mercury in Libra to express that idea. There is a time to there's a time to think and there is a time to implement. You will have both very close together. Too much air does not have any grounding. Pluto square, Pluto is in an earth sign. It will ground your idea. It will give you both the insight of what's wrong with it, so you can fix it during this time if there's something wrong with it. But most of the thing, as I said, which is normally wrong with it is not conceptual. It is conviction in it. Like you were not powerfully expressing it. You were not showing all you could be in it, or you were not thinking of the abundance angle of it, or you were not thinking about how powerful, how big, how influential for the collective that idea can become. Those things, psychological things, will be added with it. And Pluto has been retrograde. Pluto is the underlord. It rules the underworld of your mind. Underneath that surface of being nice to others, you know what you are and what you're capable of. Pluto just makes sure to churn that inner surface and brings that to the top and says, show it to the world through Libra part of you. It challenges you to not just know within yourself who's the boss, who's the authority of your life, but express it externally in your partnerships, in your connections, in the way you speak one-on-one with people. It challenges you to change the way you connect with others in a more powerful way, instead of trying to tone yourself down to make others comfortable in conversations, just trying to make nice, sometimes dumb yourself down, if I may say, just to make nice. No. Pluto says it will not work. It will make you obsessive about showing all you are made of in your conversations. And yes, that can go compulsively out of hands because the discussions can get very intense, and some of you might have cardinal signs have already experienced that. I think on 22nd of September, Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, Libra, 22 to 24 degree, I'm talking to you. We have gone through it. 14th, around 14th of the month born of cardinal sign, you've already gone through it. We are learning how to express what we have recognized about ourselves in a more effective manner to others. Pluto takes us through an inner journey where we are forced to be reborn. It started that journey since April. It's going direct on 6th of October, when we are supposed to come out like Phoenix, use what we have learned about ourselves, the truth about ourselves, in practical life. This will be one of those opportunities to use it in practical life, and you'll find that on 1st of October, it may not come out so well. It's a second trial. It may come out much better on 2nd of November, but it may not come out so well. So be ready for that, but bring out the hidden potential, the psychological strength, the perseverance, the focus, the compulsiveness within yourself to exceed, to be good at what you are, to be all you can be. Don't hold it in anymore. Take it out. Use it. And Libra is a time to play with it. It's the vehicle of expression, of exploring this rebirth that you've gone through in the authority of your life. You're supposed to express it externally now. And we'll see that. Not very positively, but we'll see it in the first 3 days of the month. So that's the first phase of the transit, the first 11 days of the transit. And then we have the other side of it, which means that, after 8th of October, Sun, Mars, Mercury, 3 planets in Libra, around 10 degree, they are going to meet together. And that becomes the time to see things. That becomes, not 10 degree, 16 degree. That becomes the time to plant the seed. It's called an inferior conjunction because Mercury is going to walk on Earth, so as to speak. It is the time when the communication will be very speedy. The words will fly out of your mouth because you would have recognized what you're made of and you want to express it and you don't want to hold it back. You've recognized how the idea you have or how the partnership you have, you've already disengaged from the old shackles and now you're so ready. It's that period when the mistakes are made in Mercury retrograde. The period from 9th of October to 18th of October is when early delivery of ideas happen, which they should not happen. We are supposed to reorient. We're supposed to work forward but not commit. We're supposed to use this drive to connect with people. Use this to commence the work on the idea forward. Use this important moment to use the energy that you have to form those partnerships. 9th of October is when a seed is planted at 16 degree of Libra. Combative, impatient, impulsive, argumentative, like a newborn child, our ideas will be on that day. But we'll be so raring to go that it will be very difficult to hold you back. Similarly, Mercury and Mars, when they're together, which they will be on 9th of October, we'll be too fast, too speedy in everything, in speaking things, in driving, in, it's Mars, inflammation. So be careful of sharp things. Be careful of sharp tongues. A lot of sharp things will be there around because normally when the Mercury retrograde period, when we reach this, it's only Sun and Mercury meeting together. This time Mars says, I'm going to be there to help you push through. So this is one of those new moons which are happening. We have a new moon on 6th of October, which is happening. So it will be a very, very cardinal new start. Cardinal new start is when we are raring to go. We take the initiative. We don't leave it to Providence for it to come through. We say we are going to move forward because we have decided this is how I want to go forward. And we lose the stiff stand we had on things. We have already made the modifications. Now we are ready to go. We are supposed to gather resources to get started. Be careful to not rush through things because even in those moments from 9th of October to 18th of October, there are still things that are not yet shown to us. There's further growth to be had. Sun will further meet Pluto and Jupiter on 15th to 17th of October. There is more stuff to know. There's more conviction to be had, more information to be had. But start testing new territories. Start exploring new options, opportunities to develop. But don't commit to things yet. Research, surveys can move forward. But committing just fall short of the delivery. Be ready for it. After 18th of October, Mercury becomes Morning Star. Morning Star is all about us taking initiative, we running ahead. It's the period of experimentation. And after 18th of October, on 20th of October, we have Aries full moon, which is all about taking initiative. So it's going to be the time to try the untried. We have the full moon in Aries along with Jupiter going direct. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Finally, the external support starts coming in. 47 days of acting on instincts, freedom of ideas, time to test the untested, experimental phase of action and our mind and our thinking. Action will be ahead of thought. That's the period for us to fly in the face of convection. And full creative freedom to try things. See all opportunities of growth and expansion creatively, professionally, personally, because you'll have suddenly all the planets together moving direct, which will come with the deluge of external events, which will come with a cardinal T-square, which will happen on Aries full moon, which is on 20th of October. Cardinal T-square is all about let's go. It's about let's go. So you'll find that period to be the time when we should go. So be prepared for that. And then we add more value in November. On 1st of November, when Mercury and Jupiter move together, you have another chance to expand this further. It's positive news, positive communication on the ideation, further growth on it. Before I leave you, and then we'll do the science specific videos as well, but I like to just say Mercury in Libra, it aims to find the right balance between thinking and feeling. Some of the thought processes that we normally, the imbalance that is there in our perception of others, it will come up. When a person is triggering your emotional complex, or someone is not in some ways living up to our ideals or expectation, they are normally trying to show us something within ourselves that we judge. This is a planet of judgment. It's a planet where we want everything to be justified, everything to be balanced. But because of that, sometimes we become lopsided in terms of our perception of others. Seeing both sides of a person, the process to come to a conclusion through a debate is the process that Libra goes through. But in that, if there is an imbalance, usually within ourselves, we have unfairly given a judgment to somebody. And that judgment needs to be debated. So there would be a person, possibly a relationship. If we have been very lopsided or unfair in the judgment towards that person, that could come up at this time. We stand too much for our ideals, for the truth, for the beauty, for the justice in the Libra part of our chart, and that we sometimes become unfair to the other person. The process of learning how to choose when it comes to our choice, when it comes to commitment, a person, to a project, a job that would come up. How do I choose? What is my process of choice? And Libra can sometimes kill the desire because of analysis paralysis to choose, because by the time you choose, you're already done with that thing. You don't even want to go for it. And in some ways, Mercury retrograde in Libra is to heal your Venus function, which rules our desire. So if our desire has died, our ability to choose has got jaded, because so many times we were not able to make the right choice, or what we committed to us, what was committed to us was not either side good for us. So if our desires, Venusian side, our ability to choose has got jaded, you'll find yourself going back and getting a renewal of your ability to choose, the ability to figure out, yes, I know both sides of it, but I can also choose. Libra is strategy side of Aphrodite, of Venus. So sometimes we just try to use the Mars side to get things. So when Mercury is in Libra and retrograde is in Libra, it tries to show you there is another way to get things. There's another way to get what you want, and it's not Taurus way of getting things. No offense to Taurus, but Taurus has a very exuded sexuality. It's a Libra way. It's a strategic intelligence in some ways way of getting things. The aesthetics and the arts are there, but there's a quality of our imagination and the quality of our craftsmanship in relationship, a way to maneuver in relationships. I have 3 Libra, as I said, in my house. The way, and I'm an Aries sun and moon. The way I go after things is fairly like straight, but I know that others get their way too, in a very intelligent and charming way. So when Mercury is in Libra and it's retrograde, we are taught there is another way to get things. There is a diplomatic way. So there is a different facet of our psyche which is sometimes too dormant, and Mercury in Libra wakes that up and says both sides are okay. There are 2 ways to be willful. There are 2 ways to go after your desires, and the outcome is going to be the same. One might make everyone, not everyone happy, but it might be more easy for you. So strategy of getting your way is another thing that you might be reconsidering during Mercury in Libra. These are the growth things. We can be very upset about the things that happen during Mercury retrograde, but these are the things that we learn, and they become our tool for the next 6 years to deal with relationships, to deal with partnership. The other thing that I found that Mercury retrograde in Libra teaches us is what is the meaning of relationship in your life. If we have learned to do things too much by ourselves, being too independent, we are asked to reassess the priorities in relationship. Both sides, if we become too dependent on somebody, but our creative choices, and somehow if we have become like too recluse with other people, which right now with the process, because there's so much air element right now, Jupiter is in Aquarius, Saturn is in Aquarius, the air element gets sucked out of our life, and it always becomes like I want to, it becomes difficult to go back to social life. It becomes difficult to be back socially. So Mercury in Libra in some ways is conviction back in depending on other people, including them in your own life, using them, doing things together with them. And we are taught, okay, there is a way, to look at both sides, logical side of relationship. But sometimes you need to have intuitive conviction in the other person and go with it. So it will add an element of wisdom in relationships which logic cannot justify, and logic lacks greatly. When Mercury is retrograde, you are shown a different side of your own brain, your own thinking process, your own wisdom that you would normally not see in the direct part. And those wisdom will come very handy in you getting through people, in relating to other people, which you must use. Great ambition for intellectual accomplishment can exist in Libra parts of our life, but there might be a lack of sometimes making a choice of perseverance in Libra part of our life. We can very easily become, this is another thing that Pluto will add to Libra part of our life. We can become easily jack of all trades. We can easily become I only say this to my husband because he's Libra, but he's Wikipedia of crap. He knows everything about anything. So you can become like he knows about everything. So okay, I'm going to cut that out. We can get really jack of all trades, but Pluto makes you, can you just stick with the option right now? The idea that you have right now can be grounded. And Pluto will not let it happen. So if you'll find yourself in a process in some ways because of some amount of constraint of resources or need for your own compulsion to prove yourself, that you'll have to somehow narrow yourself down to a single idea and become a specialist in it. And you'll find that very, very, very early in the process itself, in the first 3-4 days of October itself. To look back to the period of 2014 and 15. 2014 was the period which will be more relevant. What happened in 2014 was we had this September, October 2014 when Mercury was retrograde from 17 to 30 degree of Libra. And in that 17 to 30 degree of Libra, most of you would have got covered who will be directly impacted by this. This time it's 10 to 25 degree. So you're looking at similar degrees that happened in September to October of 2014. What happened after that was that we had an eclipse in April of 2015, which was a result of the events, this reconsideration that happened in September and October of 2014. So it's possible that you had an epiphany or an event in September, October 2014, which made you decide something finally in April 2015. And the process of deciding started in January of 2015. And sometimes that event might have been out of your hand. Something happened which was very fated, very karmic in April of 2015, which started in January of 2015, which was a result of reconsideration in September, October 2014. And then it took September, October of 2015 for that to fully pan out and show you. You will find those unfinished businesses coming back right now. And they're coming in opposite polarity, which means that if there was something which was started in April of 2015, you'll find that with the Libra new moon that is happening on 6th, that might come for a closure. Or if you had something which was completed at that time, you'll find that that will start a new chapter will start over there. We would also see this some of the Mercury retrograde impact on global events, even though I have to say that I have not seen global events directly impacted alone by Mercury retrograde, except of course the transport issue, communication issues. You do elections like Germany has decided to do during the Mercury retrograde period time. I guess they don't have an astrologer, so there are 3 coalitions and all 3 are claiming that we are majority. So coalition is all about Libra, they 3 coalition, choose between them. So law, regulation, legislation, elections, gender parity, international contracts, topics of war and peace, national alliances, peace treaties, social classes, essentially social equality between classes, gender equality, as I said, those are the topics that usually would come up. If you are in media, if you're in a field of communication, client facing, be very careful, because we had seen some very dramatic faux pas in 2014. One of the reporters was fired because he called President Xi Jinping as 11 Jinping. So offensive, just plain careless and not very thought out things can come out, and out of pure mistake, not really disrespect can come out, and we need to be careful about, because it can have national repercussions. But so some of those factors we saw. Social we saw referendums, Scotland referendum in 2014. So these are the topics that can come back. We should see impact on euro as a result of this, in my view. Euro is a Libra currency. It's based on association. It's a cumulative currency. So you'll find that euro could come into question. And as I mentioned in the last month's video, European countries are cardinal countries, so we'll see them more impacted by the lunations which will happen in October, which will happen in Aries and Libra. So France, UK, I'm talking about European continent, not EU. So France, UK, Germany, you'll find them definitely getting impacted. Germany and France, especially from their financial relationships to other countries. UK would be, in my view, in some ways could be a loss, because there's a south node at 14 degree of Libra where we'll see a new moon. So there could be a phase. This is a a solar eclipse for United Kingdom on 6th of October. So we can see some large impact on United Kingdom, which could be in some ways a prosperity, because Libra is ruled by Venus, which rules currency and prosperity in some ways. We can see that. Canada also has its ascendant at 9 degree of Libra. We can see some sort of a critical change which happens, and there is no south node over there, so I'm not saying this will be detrimental to Canada, but there could be a prosperity, health, or country's identity related shift and change or reconsideration. We have already had elections over there, but now how do you put your next foot forward? What is the prosperity, what is the health of the country, and what is the identity of the people there? In some ways there would be a major cycle of reconsideration. In case of United States, Libra is 11th house, so legislation, 11th house is legislation and mundane astrology. We'll see that, and it has Saturn there, so there could be some restrictive legislation which could be under discussion through parliament at this time, which might go back and forth. In case of Japan, there could be a currency, could be a loss of currency or a financial fraud that can come up, because it has Neptune at the degree of the new moon of 6th of October. So that's the countries I checked. If you have any specific country you'd like me to take a look at, I can definitely look at it. In the past, in 2014, we did have strategy of war and peace go through misunderstanding. US and Turkey had a big misunderstanding on how to handle ISIS surge in Syria, and that led to a diplomatic incident, and we can see some diplomatic incident at that time. There was an attack unfortunately on Canadian Parliament at that time. 83 million accounts of 10 banks, they were under cyber attack. There were other aspects to support it as well. I'm not saying all of this will happen, but these are indications of some of the unfinished business from 2014, September, October, which can come back at that time. There was also a terrorist attack threat against gender equality lecture. Gender equality is a Libra theme that will come up at this time, and there could be something which goes against it, which needs to be handled. So that's what I have for you. We'll do the by sign in specific videos. We'll do sign specific videos, because I like to cover the new moon and the Mercury retrograde together for each of the signs, so we can delve deeper into each of the zodiac sign. Have a good week ahead. I'll see you in the next video.